Listen closely, because this is the kind of story that sounds unreal until you realize it's all happening in plain sight. One sentence. That's all it took. One sentence allegedly spoken at a private party years ago is now shaking friendships, reputations, and reigniting a conversation Hollywood keeps trying to bury. A sentence that didn't just sting, it echoed. And today, that echo has turned into a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, public scrutiny, and a reminder that in celebrity culture, nothing ever truly stays private. And this is the story everyone's reacting to, but almost no one is slowing down to truly understand. It starts with Jada Pinkett Smith, a woman known for speaking boldly, openly, and unapologetically. For years, she and Will Smith invited the world into their marriage, their struggles, their healing, and their truth. They turned vulnerability into conversation into content, and content into cultural moments. But somewhere along the way, the line between openness and exposure blurred. According to court documents, a man named Bilal Salam, someone who claims to have been a close friend of Will Smith for years, someone who worked with him professionally and knew him personally, says that relationship took a dark turn in 2021 at a party that November, during a time when Will and Jada's marriage was under intense public discussion. Salam alleges that Jada confronted him directly. The accusation is serious. He claims she told him that if he didn't stop talking about her and Will, he was going to catch a bullet. Those words, if they were said, carry weight. Not just emotional weight, but legal weight. Salam says the statement felt like a death threat, not a joke, not frustration, not a figure of speech, a threat. And now, years later, he's filed a lawsuit demanding $3 million in damages and requesting a restraining order. Immediately, opinions split. Some people hear the allegation and say, if true, that's unacceptable. Full stop. Words matter. Threats matter. Power matters. When someone with influence speaks like that, it hits differently. Others aren't convinced. They question the timing. They question the intent. They ask why it took years for legal action to be taken. They point out that conditional statements, if you do this, then I'll do that, exist in a murky legal gray zone, and they wonder whether this lawsuit is really about fear or about attention. Legally, the case faces an uphill battle. Civil assault claims are difficult. Statutes of limitation come into play. Proving emotional distress years later is complex. Even seasoned legal analysts are openly skeptical about whether this lawsuit will succeed in court. But here's the truth most people miss. Winning may not be the goal, because in Hollywood, the damage often happens long before a judge ever rules. Allegations alone can shift public perception. Headlines linger, conversations spread, and once a narrative enters the cultural bloodstream, it's nearly impossible to fully erase. What complicates this even further is the history. Will and Jada didn't just tolerate public discussion of their relationship. They encouraged it. They spoke openly on stages. They addressed rumors head-on. They dissected their marriage on Red Table Talk in front of millions. They created an environment where talking about their private life wasn't forbidden. It was normalized. So when someone inside their circle speaks too freely, where does accountability begin? And where does hypocrisy end? That's the uncomfortable question at the center of this story. And notably, through all of this, Will Smith has remained silent. No statement, no clarification, no public stance. And silence, especially from someone whose voice has carried so much weight for so long, becomes its own message. Whether intentional or not, it leaves space for speculation to grow. As this legal drama unfolds, another reminder hits the industry. Fame does not create immunity, but it does magnify consequences. And that lesson shows up again in a completely different story, on a completely different stage. Through it all, one theme keeps resurfacing. Visibility changes everything. Fame amplifies words, actions, and mistakes. It turns private moments into public debates and personal choices into cultural battlegrounds. And that's why stories like these matter, not because celebrities are special, but because they reflect the pressures, contradictions, and consequences we all navigate, just under a brighter spotlight. This isn't about choosing sides. It's about understanding context. It's about slowing down in a world that thrives on outrage. And it's about remembering that behind every headline, lawsuit, viral clip, and opinion, there were real people, real consequences, and real stories still unfolding.